Why do you think you've done so well and Labour's vote, as you say, has collapsed?
Loss of confidence in the Labour Party. No one knows what the Prime Minister really stands for. A sense that somehow in this very patriotic constituency, the Labour Party doesn't really stand for those values anymore. A sense from working people whose alarm clocks go off at 5 o'clock in the morning that they're paying ever more taxes and they wonder why. But I promise you that the fact there are 750 young men who've illegally crossed the English Channel living in this constituency alone, it's a sense of fairness and what's right and what's wrong, bordering, I would say, even on resentment. And we picked that up very strongly on the doors for the people who voted Labour for all of their lives.
What's your reflection of the results across the country, mayoral elections, local government elections and so on?
Well, some near misses in mayoral contests, but in old Labour areas, North Tyneside, Doncaster, we missed out by cigarette paper on both of those. We are smashing into the Labour vote in many parts of the North. Durham tomorrow will be the acid test of how much we've hit into Labour. But Lincolnshire and Staffordshire show you that
the Labour movement faces a severe meltdown after a crushing election loss, among the harshest in its past. The tremors are spreading throughout Westminster. Tensions peaked when party chair Ellie Reeves joined LBC with Nick Ferrari. As he pressed her on why the movement collapsed so dramatically, she faltered. Her response: citizens demand transformation, but the shift they seek is Labour removed from leadership. So where did everything unravel for Labour? Let's examine it more closely.
Reform, very much the story of the night, as we expected, won that by-election by just 6 votes. So that is a serious defeat for Labour. Starmer failing his first electoral test, and elsewhere they are picking up council seats a lot. The Tories down at 50 at the moment, so a poor night for them. Labour just about holding, and that seems to be the theme of the night too. They have, however, held on to those mayoralties in Doncaster, North Tyneside and the west of England, despite some really serious opposition from Reform. They are doing very well in second place there and have taken, of course, their first mayoralty. Other patterns we're seeing, apart from the teal tidal wave that we have very much seen tonight, those huge swings to Reform. Fascinating stuff, and you just heard from a very happy Nigel Farage this morning. Reform are taking seats now off both Labour and the Conservatives. They are no longer just the party which is eating into Kemi Badenoch's vote. They are now a headache for both Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch. So that is also going to be a real threat to the chances of a majority for any political party at the next election. If the polls continue like this, we are on course for a hung parliament. Of course, it's very early to be making any of these predictions, but it just goes to show exactly what is going to be done here.
Nigel Farage grinned while raising 6 fingers toward the cameras, a playful sign celebrating his party's razor-thin triumph. 6 ballots may not appear significant, yet it was sufficient for Reform UK to capture the seat of Runcorn and Helsby, just outside Liverpool from Labour's decades-long control. Once viewed as one of Labour's safest bastions, the constituency flipped in a dramatic upset that jolted both dominant parties. On a night filled with unexpected outcomes, Reform's gain proved they're not merely creating chatter, they're beginning to emerge as a genuine challenge to the political order. Before we move ahead, tell us, are you enjoying the video so far? If your answer is yes, kindly take a moment to like and share, and be sure to subscribe to our channel. Now, let's return to it.
I'm not sure there's any suggestion of that at all. Isn't it just a matter of tactical voting, which is something that's happened particularly between Labour and Liberal Democrat voters for a long time? That's just how the voting system works in first past the post, isn't it?
Well, look, I just think that, there needs to be a bit of honesty about it. Robert Jenrick made these comments that seem to be a lot more than just about tactical voting. It was talking about an electoral pact, a coalition of some kind. That's very different just for tactical voting, for example.
How do you explain away what's happened? I mean, you can't blame it all on the Conservatives or on Mike Amesbury, the former Labour MP for Runcorn and Helsby, can you? Because even where you've won mayoral elections, you've lost so much support, and it's ended up being a pretty tight race. What that seems to indicate is, surely, that the government is not addressing a lot of the issues that ordinary people up and down the country have got concerns about.
When we were elected to government last July, we were elected on a platform of change. And look, I recognise that people are impatient for change. I'm impatient for that change. The government's impatient for that change. Since coming into government, we have started to deliver on our plan for change. It takes time. NHS waiting lists are down 6 months in a row, but there are still too many people on waiting lists. Take Runcorn, for example. Just last month, we delivered 4 new free breakfast clubs in primary schools. Well, we want to go further and faster. We want every primary school in Runcorn to have a free breakfast club. Just last month, our increase in the national minimum wage means that 3.5 million low-paid workers are getting a pay rise. But
what stood out most in the recent election wasn't merely the figures. It was an unmistakable signal that Reform UK is no longer just a fringe band of disruptors, regardless of how much Keir Starmer might try to portray them that way. Still, Labour's reaction so far, particularly to the defeats in Runcorn and Helsby, has seemed oddly subdued, almost detached. There's been scant recognition of the deep anger and disappointment many lifelong Labour voters are experiencing after 10 months under the party's rule. Once, we spoke about the value of emotional intelligence in leadership. What we're witnessing now, regrettably, is a glaring lack of it.
Well, I think what the voters up and down the country, and particularly in Labour heartlands, are saying we'd actually like to change the government and let's have a general election, because, I mean, this is a staggering collapse of a government in just 10 months. I mean, this seat that we've just won, it's the equivalent of winning Hackney South from Diane Abbott.
Right.
And that's the sort of context we're talking about here. And voters have basically reject the lies of the Labour Party, and they've essentially sort of put even deeper into the bin the Tory Party, and people are absolutely raging mad about national issues, the 34,000 odd illegals that have crossed the channel since Labour took control. The fact that legal immigration is still completely out of control as well, and people are getting poorer. Net stupid zero is, it's coming to fore, and the unions are now backing reform on net zero. Tony Blair is backing reform on net zero. So look, we're winning all over the place, and
we're witnessing something profound take shape. Citizens are no longer content with hollow assurances. They demand truth. They demand to be acknowledged. For countless lifelong Labour backers, there's a profound sense of betrayal. It isn't only that their concerns are dismissed, that the administration under Starmer and Reeves is making decisions they never imagined from a Labour leadership, decisions that appear completely out of line with what the movement is meant to represent. Just months ago, Labour looked like a symbol of hope after years of conservative austerity. But now, for many, this government hardly feels like Labour at all. And this isn't about old Labour versus new Labour. It's about whether it remains Labour in any genuine sense today.
Of why Labour lost those key red wall seats?
Well, Julia, let's just say, first of all, losing 300 councillors and several other significant elections this weekend, there are no reasons to be optimistic, as some in the Labour Party have said. Gaining Chipping Norton and losing the North is not something to be optimistic about. It's been a disaster. And the reason this has happened, I think the umbilical cord between the Labour Party and its traditional vote was severed when we came out for a second referendum back in 2016-17, which I think we probably discussed at the time.
Labour's approach under Starmer appeared to be blunting Reform UK by edging closer to Farage's stances, particularly on immigration. The calculation was mirror reform, gain some breathing room, then fund public services and secure a sweeping victory at the following election. The assumption was that economic growth, with minor tax adjustments, would cover the costs. Yet this unraveled quickly. Local ballots showed voters weren't convinced. If Labour copies reform, many will simply back the original. Meanwhile, core Labour loyalists were unsettled by the party's drift rightward, especially around immigration. To make matters worse, the anticipated growth never arrived. That left only borrowing or redistribution, both difficult under Labour's self-imposed spending rules. Instead, Starmer's team imposed cuts on measures like winter fuel payments, national insurance, and disability support. These choices damaged the very groups Labour has long claimed to champion. Disenchanted citizens reacted not by rallying behind Labour, but by voting for alternatives. And while activists or MPs might once have raised alarms, Labour's centralised grip shut down dissent. Legislators who speak out risk losing the whip. Now the party seems not only without a coherent plan, but also without a moral compass, punishing vulnerable groups while trying to out-reform reform. And people are noticing. It's time for members and MPs to step forward. not just to reconsider strategy, but to reconnect with the grassroots and avoid alienating supporters again. A meaningful first step would be scrapping the proposed disability cuts and genuinely listening to the public. Labour's weak performance in Thursday's vote wasn't shocking. It's been building for a long while. With multi-party politics now firmly established in the UK, this could mark the beginning of a major realignment. In response to the setback, Prime Minister Keir Starmer faulted Nigel Farage for offering simple slogans and pledged to push harder for change, insisting he won't make excuses. Farage, on the other hand, is celebrating sweeping advances. His reform movement now leads in 10 councils and tops for more, with new mayors in Greater Lincolnshire and Hull and East Yorkshire. But now comes the test, showing what they'll actually do with power. Farage has floated creating a UK version of Trump's Doge, a government efficiency unit meant to slash public spending. Speaking after reform's success in Durham, he cautioned council employees focused on climate, diversity or remote work to reconsider their priorities. His message: eliminate waste, review contracts, shrink the state, and stick to basics like social care and repairing roads. When challenged on reforms, inexperienced councillors, Deputy Leader Richard Tice described it as an advantage. He admitted mistakes would occur, but promised openness in a fresh, practical style free from establishment baggage.
Why do you think you've done so well and Labour's vote, as you say, has collapsed?
Loss of confidence in the Labour Party. No one knows what the Prime Minister really stands for. A sense that somehow in this very patriotic constituency, the Labour Party doesn't really stand for those values anymore. A sense from working people whose alarm clocks go off at 5 o'clock in the morning that they're paying ever more taxes and they wonder why. But I promise you that the fact there are 750 young men who've illegally crossed the English Channel living in this constituency alone, it's a sense of fairness and what's right and what's wrong, bordering, I would say, even on resentment. And we picked that up very strongly on the doors for people who voted Labour for all of their lives.
What's your reflection of the results across the country, mayoral elections, local government elections and so on?
Well, some near misses in mayoral contests, but in old Labour areas, North Tyneside, Doncaster, we missed out by cigarette paper on both of those. We are smashing into the Labour vote in many parts of the north. Durham tomorrow will be the acid test of how much we've hit into Labour. But Lincolnshire and Staffordshire show you that in areas the Conservatives have always run, we're making massive progress there too. So it's a phenomenal night for us.
What's your message for Sir Keir Starmer and also for Kemi Badenoch?
Kemi Badenoch, please stay. I mean, please don't resign. We want you to stay on as leader. I'll put some money in if you'd like to keep you there. No, she's got an impossible job. The Conservative Party is split. And what you'll see tomorrow, as the West Country results come in, is you'll see a stack of 2021 Conservative votes will have come to us.
At the end of the day, Reform UK's performance in the election delivers an unmistakable warning to Labour. Things haven't exactly run smoothly since they assumed control in Westminster. If Labour hopes to prevent another leadership collapse, it may be time to stop throwing jabs at Reform and its supporters and start paying attention to what people actually demand. If you're enjoying this political ride, remember to like the video and hit subscribe for more sharp insights and fresh perspectives.